On this episode of Unpopular Demand, I'm joined by the singer-songwriter herself, Pennsylvania's very own Avery Lynch. You just recently released your recent single, Rain, out on records, and also you released your other second project, As Written Volume 2, that you also had this past year with Friction as well on top of that. And so far, you're not just described as the girl who makes sad music, but the happy girl filled with sad songs. And just want to start it off. Thank you for coming on today.
Thanks for having me. Super excited.
Of course. So just to get right into it, your newest song, Rain, your most recent, a lot of it has so much traditional song structure that you really incorporate in your music. You're one of those artists that don't go by the 2-minute songs or the minute 30. You always give your full everything into it, from the structure of what it should be, from a bridge, a chorus, verses, and such. What exactly does that stem from, and where does that come from how you make music and why you make it that way exactly?
Honestly, I don't think I could make a 2-minute song if I tried. For whatever reason, I come up with like a melody and I just keep on going with it. And then it ends up like it feels like it needs to repeat, or it feels like it really needs a pre-chorus here. And a lot of songs might not need a bridge. I personally love bridges, so I don't use them on every single song. I don't know what it is. I couldn't tell you, because I've had the conversation with people before of how I don't think I know how to do anything shorter than like 3.5 minutes at like the shortest, which is kind of excessive, but it just doesn't feel complete without it.
So speaking on that, when you compose the bridge in your song and just your songs in general, you said that you start with the piano and then you bring the process of the demo to your team of who you worked with and everybody that's involved. How exactly does that normally go about when you start with the piano itself? Do you just normally start with the chords, or do you start with trying to find the melodies or a harmony, or what exactly from the instrumentation?
It kind of, only some songs are started with the piano. It's only really my like piano heavy songs like Rain, like my song Somebody New, that was the focus track of As Written Volume 2, and like a couple songs that are going to be in this upcoming project. Those that are very much like compositions that also have lyrics and vocals and everything in it like any other song. Those start with piano, but generally I actually start with a concept that normally comes with like a line that also comes with a melody, and it's like one little sentence, and then I build the whole song around it. For Rain specifically, I wrote that chorus piano, and I was actually playing on a real piano, which I don't have a real piano. I was pet sitting, and the house that I was like pet sitting at had a real piano, and so I was playing around, and just on a real piano, everything just sounds more dramatic. And I used to, like growing up, only make piano compositions because I started as like a piano kid. And so I just kind of somehow tapped back into that, and I made that chorus piano, and I was like, I should try to write something on top of it. And that's how Rain ended up happening. And Somebody New is a very similar situation where I also wrote that chorus piano, and then the vocals and everything just kind of came after it. With other songs, it's actually kind of like flip-flopped, and the piano comes like in accompaniment and not as like its own full composition.
And then to further speak on that, you stated how Rain is pretty much writing about a breakup and then being asked up by someone else, and pretty much how you handled that. But when it comes down to the lyrical themes of the song, how do you go about recounting and recollecting these moments and memories? Because if it's something that's happened for such a long time, do you normally have a best way to tap back into it? Do you revisit old places, conversations, through texts? And how do you find almost like the content of what the lyrics should be once it's something of a past situation or something that happened from time ago and such, just to tap back into it?
Honestly, I think I'm a person that really, really clings on to feelings. And I can remember like kind of like snapshots in memories, like very vividly. And I don't actively think about them, but sometimes something will just like spark it for whatever reason. And for this song, I wrote the line, "If I knew how to make it rain," first. And I had actually in my notes for like, I think it like 1.5 years or something before I ended up actually writing the song. And I knew what I wanted it to be the whole time. I was like, rain as in like, if I could make it rain outside, if I could control the weather, so I have to take like a physical rain check. And I was like, well, I know the situation that I was in where that's like how I felt. And it's just like, I'm never someone who like kind of like attacks a song. Like I kind of sort of let it happen when
It's
it,
organic, it's natural.
yeah, I just kind of let it happen when it happened. So I already had that idea and didn't even start writing it until like a year later. And when I'm revisiting it, it's seamless. Like I didn't need to look at any old pictures. I didn't need to go through any like texts or anything like that. I just kind of was right back into it. I remember it like extremely vividly too. So that's probably like the biggest piece of it is it's very memorable because it was when me and my current boyfriend were broken up. And obviously like that was the last time I went through a breakup. So that was like 4 years ago, almost 5 years ago. So it's been a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. But for whatever reason, I just really like, I don't know. I could just remember it vividly because it was such a strong feeling. And I've talked to him about it in the past like 4 or 5 years that we've been together since then. And it was like, I had this huge epiphany of like, I really don't want to go. Like, this person isn't you, so I don't want to go. And I knew that. And he kind of had that simultaneously on the other side of the country where we were like separated because we broke up because it was COVID. And he lived in California and I lived in Pennsylvania. And it was just indefinite distance. And it was just kind of like well, I don't really want to do this with somebody else. And that kind of epiphany does so much. Like, it's just so memorable that it was so easy to just go right back into that moment. And I just like wrote it all out. And there I was in it. And I could like see the whole room and everything. I'm actually back in the house that I was in when I like had the experience. So it's also very like, it's easy. I can just walk right back into the room.
It's like painting a picture again, and it's almost as like some people might ask you to say, hey, can you do the same thing twice? And for some people, it could be a little bit tougher, but you can create a Mona Lisa after Mona Lisa after Mona Lisa when it comes to something so vivid.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to putting your feelings into your music, if not Rain specifically, then maybe just your other songs that you've seen before, is it ever cathartic to just let everything flow naturally? Or do you ever have any times where it's emotionally stressful and maybe even just draining even, or it can just be a little bit hard to let the music just flow naturally, if not the lyrics or the production, when you're just almost not in really writer's block, but necessarily it's just like the emotional side of it where you're trying to figure out, okay, what's the best thing to say? How do I best say it? And what's it going to convey to my listeners if I say it this way?
Totally. Yeah. The hardest part of writing a song for me is, and especially in Rain, I felt like I had one opportunity to get it right, which is why I took so long to actually put the song together because it felt like there was so much pressure. And it's not actual pressure. It's like pressure I'm putting on myself because I know exactly what I wanted to convey and what it's going to feel like and what each line is going to like kind of do to the listener. And I needed every line to do it. Like I couldn't settle with anything. So it was kind of like a grueling process of line after line. Like there is not going to be a single one that like drops in quality. Like it has to be, everything is telling a story in a way that you haven't heard it before. And it has to all feel all of the feelings that I was feeling. And so it was just, that's the hardest part for songwriting for me because I'm just, it's not even getting past because I have to do it every time.
Is it getting started, or is it the ending, or is it the middle that you struggle with?
The middle, it's
like when you reach the top of the mountain, but like you can build it up easy, but once you're at the top of the mountain, you're like, okay, do I go back this way or do I go down this way? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know how to get down, but you're trying to figure out what's the best way.
Totally. And it's just making sure that I'm saying everything that like I'm getting that feeling across because like songs are very much, to me, it's all feeling based. Like everything is what it feels like. And I just get so like attached to the feeling that I'm trying to convey. And the hardest part of songwriting for me, or like the most grueling part of songwriting for me, is making sure that I keep that like narrative the whole time. Like I cannot be lazy at any point. I can't say something that is good isn't necessarily like it's not like doing it for me. So that's probably the hardest. That probably takes place in like the first verse. I normally start with a chorus and I normally write the entire chorus by myself.
All
That's
yourself.
yeah. I normally kind of I have a writer or two that one of them is my boyfriend. He's also my producer. And the other one is a good friend of mine, Nisha Grace, who I've kind of grown up with. We are in the same hometown. And I only write with the two of them.
What are the roles, if you could further elaborate exactly? So your boyfriend's the producer, you're the singer-songwriter as well, and she's the songwriter as well. Is she someone who normally starts to tweak it and starts to say and just give the suggestions? Are you like throwing the rough drafts out, or how does it go?
It's normally I am like spearheading the entire thing. This is the feeling. This is exactly what what I'm trying to say. And I need like a sounding board. I need someone to kind of push me to get through the hard parts of the song. Like the parts where it's like you feel physically tired from trying to come up with something, but you just have to come up with something. And that's when I bring Nisha in, is like, I need to write this first verse. I need you looking at me over FaceTime, telling me, like, we're going to figure it out. And then
Nonetheless, it's gonna
like
it's a
piecing it.
process.
I definitely am spearheading the whole thing. And I typically end up walking away with lines that I've written, but I wouldn't have been able to write them without them there, if that makes sense. So like, I don't think I would have been able to like come up with this line if Nisha wasn't on the phone. And Nisha didn't say this like one thing that was like, oh my God, you're so right. I'm going to now make this out of that. So it's very much like we're all like kind of building blocks for these songs, but I always bring the full chorus. I think there are like a couple songs that I haven't brought the full chorus into the session with, but Rain I had the entire chorus and everything and all the piano and all the melodies. And then when I normally do all the melodies, I'm such a stickler about melodies. It's like,
I'm the same way. I think of melodies is like truly almost the most important, if not the most aspect of a song. I'll give harmonies like my second. Sometimes it flips.
yeah,
Because if you have a harmonious chorus, I'm locked in. But the melody at the end of the day is something that everyone will like resonate most with, that they're gonna remember. That's the thing
it catches you. Like that's the thing that's going to catch in your ear
every time.
It's so important. And it's something I have to be like, I spend probably the most time on. If I have a melody, I have a song. Like I'll be able to fill in the blanks. And like, that's kind of the way that I see it. So I normally bring the chorus and then the whole melody. And then we fill in. Most of the time we fill in the first verse and then I take it and I do the second verse. Second verses are pretty easy for me and bridges are pretty easy for me. But that's just because I already got the hard part done. I already like said the message exactly how I wanted to, exactly how it feels. Now I get to kind of like elaborate and it's less pressure and it's kind of fun.
And then speaking on the chorus that you've got going on for Rain, you have such a very, very, I don't know if I want to say it, almost just mesmerizing with the orchestral elements that you put into this song that you can just overall hear. And it's done very, very subtle. It's not throughout the whole entire thing. It's almost in like the post chorus. I feel like just the main chorus at the end of it. What inspired the arrangement? Because normally you're like the girl on the guitar or like girl on the piano. So what made you want to involve just using the strings and symphonies at this aspect in this case?
I think just like the cinematic quality of the song in demo form, it's just kind of a way to bring it more to life. I'm obsessed with strings. If I didn't live in a tiny house and I had more money, I would learn to play cello in a heartbeat. Like that's the instrument that I would want to learn. I just love the sound so much. I love strings on everything. And we brought the song to a producer, Juan Ariza, and he is just a freaking like genius, like mastermind. Like I've never like been in a room with someone more mesmerizing to watch.
Yeah,
Just
more talent in his left thumb kind of thing.
Yes, it's like, and he plays freaking every instrument, and he pulled out this cello, and he was like, I could hear some of this on it, and I was like, well, me too. So that sounds great. And that line that comes out of that second chorus right before that like bridge slash
It's
post.
the build up kind of thing too.
Yeah, it's a that thing. He just freestyled that after recording on the chorus. He just started doing that. And me and my boyfriend, he's also the producer, not the producer of that song, but we kind of are like a band, the two of us, and we tend to co-produce a lot of the songs that we go into sessions to produce, engineers everything. So it's very much like like a team thing. And I don't know production language because I just don't.
No, you're good. I'm the same way. I can only understand music theory to a T. Like if you ask me to, I can talk about music, but if you ask me to read it, I'm
True.
basically reading Latin. And
True. If they're like, if I want some kind of like high end something, I have Jordan right next to me being like, I want some kind of high end something. And he's like, it could be this, it could be this, it could be this. And then he like relays that or I relay that. But like I get all of like the language from him. And so it really helps. And so we kind of go into these all together and it's a very collaborative thing. Like we're all working together. But we like turn to each other as Ariza was playing that like beautiful like swelling cello after the chorus. And we were like, that's it. Like, how did you somehow make the part of the song, like make my favorite part of the song? When I like brought one of my favorite songs to you in this room and you made it better, like you gave it my favorite part that didn't exist before. That's crazy. So just so cool to kind of like to work with people so talented. And he was very like, he was like, this song is so like incredible. I want to be so precious with everything that I add. Like everything has to have purpose. Everything has to be in support of the song. And he killed it. And so it just felt like all the more cinematic and everything. It was really cool.
When you look back at the evolution of your songs, and correct me if I'm wrong, because As Written, Volume 1 and 2, these are songs from the past that you go back and look at, and then you not re-release, but you just old songbooks that you're now bringing to light. So it's a very much an old to me, new to you kind of story with it. When revisiting those songs and those diaries, those notebooks, and just all the documents, all the Dropbox files, do you find more of a enjoyment in releasing it now with all you've learned and how you've evolved as an artist than how you did when you initially composed it?
So for the As Writtens, there's like the original release of all of those songs, with an exception of like 3. I normally like 3 new songs, but all the other ones have been released in the last like year or 2 from when I put that project out. So the level of excitement and love that I have for those songs originally when I put them out is like exactly what I feel every time I make a song. And it's perfect to me and I love it. And it's like everything I could want and I release it. And then I get to, in a year or however many months or however many years later, I get to then listen back to those songs and listen back to the original demos of them or the original voice memos of them and be like, there's actually something really cool about the way that I originally wrote that melody. Because that melody, it turned out to be there where it is in the recorded version, but that's not where it started. And maybe this line was different. And maybe this song that had a feature on it didn't originally. It was just me. And I wrote a verse that nobody got to hear. And that part is really cool and really fun. And it takes off so much pressure. Like doing the As Writtens is really just like a creative like dump for me because I get to go back to certain songs that for whatever reason I've just like gravitated towards and I get to make them in their like original form, but I always remake them. I've never given an actual demo because the way that I put together demos is not in a way that you would release. I put together, I record everything myself. So I've done all of my vocals and my vocal editing on all of my songs for my whole career. That's just like a thing that I do. But I'm always lazy about the demo vocal because I just want them to have something that they can use. Yeah. And then when they make the production track, they send that back to me. And then I record vocals that feel like that. So they blend together better because it's hard to always dictate that when I'm just playing piano. I tend to sound sadder because just piano.
More somber. Yeah. It's more stripped and just pure.
Totally. Where it loses some of that energy that the track has and they don't match. So I ended up starting to like not really do full real demo vocals. I just kind of like do one through and send it over, call it a day. And so that's never something I would release because in my mind, those suck. Like sound really bad. But they have the essence of what I was going for. And I can tell in it, like, if I sung it to actually that, like if I took that as a production track and I sang it to that, it would sound so special and so different from the original. It would feel so much more or just so much different than the release version. So
it has the initial intention of what you intended it to be. It has really wanted the original version before anything else is just edited or engineered differently and such. So it makes sense most to how you say it that way. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like if I didn't feel the pressure to make songs, I guess, more typically interesting.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like if I didn't feel the pressure to like make some upbeat songs and make songs more poppy and whatever it may be because of just general, I'm a small artist. I want people to hear me. I have a team and that team wants me to try new things and whatever it may be. I get to get rid of all of that and be like, this is actually like completely me in a song.
And
Like
then with
this is could like just do everything that I would probably naturally do. This is it.
And then with the direction you're going for your next project, what exactly can you detail or describe about it exactly? Like, what can people expect? What can we be aware of? What exactly would you even give to from what it would be as like a trailer, even from the next movie? Like, how would you describe it?
Totally. I love that description of it. I think that's really cool. A trailer of this next project would probably look like a kind of song by song, step by step into a story, into a true story of my life, of my relationships in my life, and it ending in a very positive way, which is not something that I normally do. I normally do obviously a lot of like sad songs and things. And obviously it's starting out that way. Everybody's heard Rain. That's the way it starts. We have quite a few songs till we get to the end, but it's generally a breakup to meeting someone new. That's the scope of it. And it's all actually like based on my life and also with some little tidbits of very close like friends and family around me too. I like to write about their situations as well, especially if they kind of coincide with mine.
Sense. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
No, it's amazing. And can't wait to hear it. Can't wait till it comes out. Can't wait till just anything's announced related to like the title, the artwork, the name, the producers, the features, anything you do with it. I think it's going to be great because one thing I feel like you find one of your best talents is you're really able to capture that moment and that feeling with not just your voice, but also just your lyrics. And it almost like coincides at the same thing. It's almost like a dual, just Swiss Army knife that you've got in terms of how you produce your music, how you write your music, and how you sing your music. You just know your tone and you really just make it everything what you want it to be. And you're so good at that. I think it's just crazy.
Thank
How, like,
you. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
of course, you're welcome. You're welcome.